These bags represent just a few of my unfinished quilt tops. It may make some people crazy, but I like to have several things going at once, and I manage to juggle a lot of different projects with different due dates in my life as a quilt pattern designer. But I do need to get things under control. So let's take a look at some of these projects, how they ended up unfinished, and what you can do to keep yourself on track if, like me, your UFO list gets into the double digits. One of my projects for 2020 has been the Spectacular Savannah quilt by Elizabeth Hartman. I love her patterns. The animals are so adorable, and the piecing is just challenging enough to keep your interest for a large project. And it's so much fun to dig into my stash and pull out the different fabric combinations for these blocks. Projects like that are purely for my own interest tend to get set aside when I have publication deadlines that I am working on. Other projects get set aside because of technical difficulties. Things like a double wedding ring quilt that I started the very first year I was quilting. Those curves were intimidating. Here are some bits and pieces of a pattern that I have rumbling around in my brain, and it did get drafted, and I'm working on the sample quilt, but I ran out of fabric. And before I could get back from the quilt store with more fabric, I was on to another project. So when you see yourself accumulating these things, it's time to take a break and rededicate yourself. Sometimes it helps to just make a list and cross those things off. It doesn't take long if you put in some dedicated time, and then your project is complete. A while ago, I made this rainbow jelly roll quilt just for fun. I wanted to see how far the strips in my 2.5-inch strip bin would go to make a quilt, and I wanted to see what the final result would look like if I sewed my strips in color order, Roy G. Biv. So I had fun playing, but now this quilt ends up in the UFO pile. Why? It doesn't have a destination. You don't have anything in mind right this minute. That's okay. It's nice to have that pile of gifts ready to go. Okay, let's review these common problems with why you have a UFO list. Something new and urgent comes along while you're working on something else. So the solution is to set aside some time just for you to work on your own projects that don't have a deadline. Next, you may encounter some technical difficulties. So the solution there is to improve your skill set. Take a class, find a more experienced quilter who can give you some tips. The next problem is that you don't have a recipient in mind for your project. Well, finish it anyway, and then add it to that future gift pile so you're ready for any surprise occasion. Managing your unfinished quilt projects is a common problem. I have collected more resources for you on my blog. Find a link in the description box below. And if you need help organizing your fabric stash, I have some tips in the video you see on your screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.